Was it not? Oh, I can hear myself.
Yes.
All right, good evening. It is 6 o'clock, so I will call this evening's Planning Commission meeting to order. Can I have a roll call, please?
Chair Maravilla,
Here.
Vice Chair Roof,
Here.
Commissioner Berlin,
Here.
Commissioner Sackerson,
Here.
and Commissioner Buchanan is absent tonight.
Thank you. The flag salute, Commissioner Berlin, would you mind leading us?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. And I just want to, before we start, we have, this is a new system tonight, so there might be little snags here and there as we all learn how to manage this new system. So just throwing that out there before we begin this evening. Agenda review, is there any items on the agenda that we want to move around? Nope. Great. We'll move on to our community comments and suggestions. This public comment period is an invitation to members of the community to present issues, thoughts, or suggestions on matters that are not scheduled on this agenda for the evening. Your comments should also be within the jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. And if you would like to come up and speak, please do. Or if you are on Zoom, you can provide comment by using the raise hand feature. Is there anyone in the room that would like to make comment, please? If you could introduce yourself, is the card in there? Okay. All right, could speak into the microphone if you could, please.
I love our little community, and I just think that aesthetically, we could do a better job of lighting the downtown. So it looks like we forgot to put the Christmas lights away. And so I was hoping maybe we could add it to an agenda and talk about it in the future.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone that would like to make public comment this evening?
Be quick. Hi, my name is Ethan Barnes. I just wanted to thank the City of Rio Grande for the survey that they put up recently, allowing community members to have some input on what kind of mission statements they support for the community going forward. I thought that was really, really nice of you guys, because I know that you guys don't have to do that. And it shows me that you guys really do care. And as someone who's lived here my whole life, going into college, gonna still be living here, I can't say how much that means to me. So thank you.
Thank you. We are actually going to be discussing the non-public hearing item 9, which is the general plan study session. That will be further on in the agenda. So if you would please save comments for that particular time, that would be great. But thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else that would like to make a comment on anything that is not on our agenda for this evening? No? Is there anyone online?
Anybody on Zoom would like to make a comment on this item, please raise your hand at this time. Chair, we have no hands raised.
Thank you. Sure.
Hello, my name is Gaia Powell, and first of all, I'd like to thank you all so much for volunteering to do the hard work that y'all are tasked with doing. And thank you to our amazing staff that has put a lot of energy into this particular project. But I wanted to I think that what you're going to decide tonight
Is this, are we talking on item 9
no,
right now?
what's going to be your decision tonight, I hope will be influenced by your oath to the Constitution. And I hope that that will guide you. That will help clear up a lot of noise or smoke, and just following your gut, being an American, having the moral duty to, stand up against anything that might be government overreach would be greatly appreciated. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, was there anyone else in the room that would like to make a public comment this evening on items that are not on the agenda? Wonderful. I will close this public comment period and we'll move on to written communications. We did receive, I would say one, but it was 83 pages. So- Oh, excuse me, 88. Was there anything else that we should have seen?
No, there's just the one supplemental item regarding item 9A.
Yeah, thank you. It wasn't like it was postcard. That we could look at pictures and things, so I made that sound a lot worse than it actually was.
I just
Um,
wanted to say, I actually really enjoyed reviewing everybody's suggestions on the postcards. And for those of you who submitted them, thank you for taking the time to do that. Some people did artwork so that they could, we could see visually what you're talking about. And I really appreciate it. And thank you, staff, for sharing that with us.
Absolutely. I completely agree. We'll move on to item 7, which is our consent agenda, which is our approval of minutes and consideration of time extension 24-002 for CUP 19-002. Is there any questions or anything on this
Yeah,
item?
I just saw one typo in the minutes. It's not even a typo. It's I'm still being identified, I think, as vice chair, and that title belongs to Commissioner Roof. Other than that, I think I would be fine with the minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner Berlin. Was there other questions, Commissioner Sackerson, anything? No, Commissioner Roof?
I just wanted to make it, are we doing both consent agenda items?
Yeah.
I just wanted to make a comment on 7B, which is the time extension for the assisted living facility. And I understand that this is the third now extension, I believe, if I'm not incorrect. I just wanted to share that my elderly parents have gone through a lot of health challenges in the last month or two. And I've been starting to research facilities, and it is really hard to find facilities. So I was, on one hand, unfortunately we have to delay it, and I understand why, but I just wanted to encourage staff to do whatever you can do to help with this project, because we really need those assisted living facility spots in our area. We have to have my mom in San Luis Obispo, which isn't terrible, but it would be so nice to be able to have her here closer. So if there's anything we can do as the city to help those folks move through, I really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to seeing that project. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other questions, comments? Could I have a motion, please?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the 2 items on the consent agenda with the one correction to the minutes. It's just a minor grammatical correction.
Thank you. I'll second. Thank you. Sorry, we are still learning. We can't all be on at the same time, apparently. Can I have a vote, please?
Commissioner Berlin? Commissioner Sackerson?
Yes.
Vice Chair Roof
Yes.
and Chair Maravilla.
Yes. Thank you. We did it. There are no public hearing items, so we will move on to item 9A, which is our general plan study session to discuss draft vision statements and guiding principles. Do we have a staff report for this?
Yes, thank you, Chair Maravilla. Good evening, Planning Commission, members of the public. I'm Andrew Perez, the city's planning manager, and I'll just make a brief introduction and then hand it over to our consultant who's going to handle the bulk of the presentation. So this evening, or the purpose of our presentation this evening is to get some feedback from both the public and the Planning Commission about the draft vision statements and guiding principles that have been developed for the general plan. As a little background, so last year, City Council authorized staff to initiate the comprehensive update to the city's general plan. This includes an update to each of our 7 elements, as well as including an environmental justice element as required by state law. In addition to the update of the general plan, the project includes the development of an alternatives report, creation of an environmental impact report, comprehensive development code update, creation of an East Grand Avenue overlay district, and an update to the city's climate action plan. So at this point, I'll hand it over to Michael Gibbons from Minter Harnish, the consultant assisting the city with this project, and he'll take it from there.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Okay, I'm going to share my screen then with the presentation. Just give me one moment.
I just wanted to say it does sound a little echoey. Is there a way to maybe adjust the mic?
Yes, let me try that. One moment.
Also, Michael, we have our IT support here as well, which I think is also going to be working on that. So if you can't fix it, I think you might be able to.
Understood. I'm going to go on mute real quick and just try to figure it out. One moment.
How does that sound?
We actually can't really hear you now,
Not enough volume.
but it didn't sound like it had an echo, but it was very light.
Just to give everyone an update, I can see behind the scenes that we are working on the audio level, so just be patient.
Hang tight, please.
How about that? Does that work, or is that still echoey?
I think you're better.
Yeah, quite a bit better.
Okay. All right, then we'll go with that. I'm going to reshare my screen here. Thank you for everyone's patience. Okay, so I'll go ahead and get started. Good evening, Madam Chair, Planning Commission. It's an absolute pleasure to be presenting to you this evening on this important project, that being the general plan update. We have a lot to go over, a lot to update you on, and a lot to discuss this evening. So we'll get right into it. We have a lot to get through. So I'll try to keep my initial presentation brief, but here's an overview of this evening. So we'll start with the project process overview. We'll go through the various phases. Then I'll bring us up to speed as to where we've been, what have we been doing in the background, as it's been quite some time since we've had the opportunity to provide you an update. And then we'll get into the real substance of this evening's meeting, which is to discuss the draft vision statements and guiding principles that we've and the project team has developed for the general plan, and ultimately end with a summary of next steps and what you can expect from us and the project team moving forward. Before we get into that, just brief reintroductions. My name is Michael Gibbons. I am the project manager for the consultant team on this project. Along with me on my team is Nikki Zanchetta. She is a planner in our office and is a familiar face if you've been to any of our community workshops. Brent Gibbons is the project director, and Jim Harnish is our principal owner and is acting as the project advisor. Our firm, Minter Harnish, was selected, as Andrew had stated, to assist the city in this monumental, multifaceted project. We're a small Sacramento-based planning firm. We have just 10 planners. But with that, we are small but mighty. We work all throughout California and have prepared over 60 general plans and 40 zoning development codes and zoning ordinances. And it's really our kind of our specialty is land use planning and community engagement. So as I had mentioned, this is a multifaceted project, and I think that's what Andrew had alluded to. And so what I would like to do is to just briefly go over these project phases, as I think it paints a better picture of just how in depth and the tasks involved in this project. So There are a total of 11 phases, and I'll go through those now, kind of highlighting some of the major takeaways or deliverables that took place. The project started 2023 with the project initiation phase. And so during that phase of the project, we had a kickoff meeting with city staff, division heads, department heads, the city manager, went over items to be addressed. We then had a really informative city tour, and then ended that evening with a study session with the Planning Commission, where it was our first introduction to present to you the project, initial takeaways, and receive, say, initial direction from you all on what you would like to see in this general plan update. Phase one was then followed by phase two, which we are calling our public outreach phase. And this is where we developed initial project branding, a website. We developed marketing materials, social media posts, a new template to try to get people familiar with this project. We also conducted a series of stakeholder interviews with developers, residents, business owners all throughout the city to gain initial feedback from a resident standpoint. And then we submitted a newsletter that was an update newsletter, getting people excited and involved in the update. And then, as you might remember, there was also a community survey that was sent out, a mailer, and that was to receive initial feedback as to when should we hold meetings, what type of meetings are the residents interested in, and really try to hone in on that community engagement, as that's a really important aspect of this project. And I think that's better clearly communicated here through these blue lines at the bottom. And so we have strategically developed this project to have community engagement in every step of the process, every task and every deliverable. And you'll see that blue line, that light blue line, carry throughout the rest of these slides. And it is really an important strategy that we've worked with your staff to develop. Along with community engagement, so kind of forward-facing engagement and workshops, we also have, I would say, internal staff engagement. So for this project, to assist your city staff in review and updating and vetting documents, we've developed a technical advisory committee. And this is made up of department and division heads, and their role is advisory. And we submit documents to them, and they vet those and review them internally to make sure that they're consistent with department and division policies, and make sure that they have a good pulse. The documents that we're providing and releasing really have are accurate and have a good pulse on the community. Phase three is our data and gathering phase. And this is where we produced an existing conditions and trends workbook. It's where we held our first workshop, if you remember last year, and we produced a series of newsletters. Really, this is an important phase of the project because it allows us to take a snapshot in time as to what Arroyo Grande was. In this case, we conducted this phase in 2023. So kind of a snapshot in time that we can work from for this project. And the next phase, and the phase that we find ourselves in today, is phase four. And this is what we call the visioning phase. And this phase consists of a workshop. We held that in February. It consists of this meeting tonight, so study sessions with the Planning Commission to review the developed vision statements. And the visioning process is really important because it provides us direction as to where we take the general plan update. And we need that direction before we can start developing goals and policies. And so we get the visioning portion done very early after we've established kind of some baseline data, because that will ultimately guide the remaining of the project and the remaining phases. The vision and guiding principles phase, and what we hope to end up with at the end of once city council ultimately adopts a vision statement, is a single vision statement, and then guiding principles that support that vision statement. And I'll get into that in further detail this evening. The next phase of the project and what we are working towards and what the vision statement and guiding principles will advise us on are the land use changes that we make as part of the general plan update. So as you know, there's the general plan really regulates and guides land use development through land use designations. So that's an opportunity for us to take a look at your general plan map, take a look at where housing should be allowed or where economic development should be prioritized. And really the alternatives phase and the alternatives that we present are based on the vision and the guiding principles that were developed. So very sequential. Every step and every phase builds on each other. The alternatives phase will have a workshop, so you can anticipate another community engagement along with multiple study sessions with Planning Commission and City Council, and then a land use alternatives report. Phase 6 is the longest phase of this project, and that's where we kind of go dark for a little bit. And that's when our team is working diligently with all of the feedback that we've received, the alternatives, choices, the vision. And now we go through the process of comprehensively updating all of those elements that Andrew had mentioned. This is for all intents and purposes, a comprehensive update of the Arroyo Grande General Plan, and one has not been done in over 15 years. So this is quite the undertaking. But in that phase 6 is when we'll be drafting all of your new elements and looking at goals and policies and taking all of the feedback that we've received from the community, from the Planning Commission, and direction from City Council, really implementing that. After we have a general plan developed in a draft stage, we have to move on through the state required portion, and that is through a CEQA analysis. For this particular project, we will be preparing what we call an environmental impact report. It's a fairly lengthy, involved environmental assessment of all of the potential impacts that the general plans, goals, policies, and programs might have. This is a really important document too, and one that we are crafting very strategically, because we're going to use this document to really set the city up for future success on environmental documents. And so the climate action plan, the development code update, will all be able to tee off of this environmental impact report. And that's it saves a lot of money and time on staff's end and on the city's end to be able to structure it that way. Phase 8 is our public review and adoption, and this is what we all hope for, which is a successful adoption of the plan. And that consists of, again, multiple rounds of public comment, review, study sessions, and public hearings. At the tail end of this project, there are a multitude of tasks that were brought in and folded into this general plan update. And those would include a comprehensive development code update. So think of that as your zoning code update. A series of economic development analysis tasks that would consist of a retail market analysis and then a market demand study, and then a climate action plan. So an update to your climate action plan. So this is not just a general plan update. This is really all of those guiding documents updates that we can do consistently at the same time, and really is going to set up the city for success. So here's what the project looks like from a schedule standpoint. The red line indicating where we are. So we're in July, and we are at the PC study session. So we're halfway through this phase 4, this visioning and guiding principles. In August, we have it scheduled tentatively to bring your recommendation this evening, along with all of the comments received from the community to City Council at an adoption hearing in August. That will then be followed by the alternatives choices phase, which is phase 5, and that will really take us through the end of this year. We forecast out, we look at the overall projects to have everything done, all of the multitude of different projects and tasks involved in this. We're looking at early 2027 to have everything adopted, the development code, the CAP, all in its entirety. Whereas the general plan portion really itself will have that kind of coming to a stop really in 2025. All the other kind of projects and all the other pieces will be moving on with that. But that's at least a project schedule at a glance. And next, I wanted to bring you up to speed on what we've been doing. I mentioned that it's been quite some time since we've been able to provide you an update. But rest assured, we have been quite busy conducting community engagement and working in the background. So I wanted to just go over that with you. And I'll start off with our website. So at the beginning of this project, we spent a lot of time and investment in this project website. We view this as the hub for everything general plan related for Arroyo Grande. So here, this is where we'll announce upcoming meetings. We will release documents. It houses all of for the plan or for the project. So any deliverable that we submit gets posted here as well. And you can go back to the very first one at the beginning of the project. We also have a list of resources and frequently asked questions, being that this is an extremely complicated project and not a project that a lot of residents typically have the opportunity to get involved in. So trying to be as transparent as possible, answer those frequently asked questions. We've done so very strategically in there. Important thing about the website is a couple of things. One is it's fully translatable. So you can select languages at the very top. So you can translate into multiple languages. We have up to 50 that we can select. I think we just have a handful in there now. But there are a multitude of options that you can pick from. Another really great feature of this site that we've been able to program in there is it's fully accessible. So whether there are visual or visually impaired, there are options in there that can make the text larger, or those that they call like dyslexic friendly. So it can change up the size of the lettering, or color blindness. It allows you to change that. And that's really important for us. We want this to be as inclusive as possible and make sure that everyone's voice can be heard. So building that in was really important and really furthers, I think, the mission that we were tasked with in this project. With that, we also have branding and project logos. I'll go back real quick. The handle or the login for the website is planarroyogrande.com. So try to keep it as simple as possible. But that is the link for it. You also are probably familiar by now with the branding that we've come up, try to create a familiarity with this project and get people excited when they see this. They know that this is about the general plan update, that they can provide input, that this is a transparent process. And in order to get input out, in order to get people involved, is we've also really tried to do our best in getting the word out through social media. So whether that be through email e-blasts, we have an extensive list of email signups from residents that have signed up to receive email updates through our team. So we will also and have been using the city's existing social media networks and providers, so through Facebook and Instagram, and then we share our posts through other entities that are willing to share. And so I know we've had Slow Yimby repost items, but really just trying to get a post out there so it's easy to share. It's really how we've found the best engagement so far. And we've been really successful. We have received, in comparison to other jurisdictions that we work for, Arroyo Grande has consistently come out with heavy involvement, heavy feedback in our surveys, and has been an extremely involved citizenry. And I think that's just really a testament to the community. Other items that you've probably seen our team prepare are newsletters. So these are really just quick updates that you can get a glance at. We've prepared 2 thus far. We have another one coming up when we get into the next phase of the project. And I would say most importantly that we've been doing is facilitating workshops and community engagement. We've had 2 formal workshops at this point, multiple pop-up events, multiple community surveys, online surveys, and have tried to engage the community throughout every step of this process. And that is really where we ended up tonight and this evening. All of the feedback that we have received for the project to date, it's kind of come to this, and it's developing this vision and this guiding principles. So I know that was a lot to cover. We went over schedule, we went over project phases. Before I get into the vision statements and the guiding principle options, I wanted to hand it back to the chair to see if there were any questions from commissioners that I can help answer before we get into the rest of the presentation.
Thank you. That's a great idea. Did you have any questions, Commissioner Roof?
Oh, there's an empty chair. That's interesting. I just had a quick question. You said, you had a large email list. I was wondering how many residents or how many people are on the email list right now?
Oh, I think we are over 300. If you give me a moment, I can confirm that. But that exceeds some counties that we work for. So you're doing a very good job about engaging. I can get you an exact number. I'm pulling it up
Oh,
right now.
that's okay. I was just wondering ballpark. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Commissioner Sackerson, do you have any questions? Okay, Commissioner Roof. Can my question actually went back to the email list too. But this is just people that have like signed up specifically for this, correct? We haven't pulled names or anything from anywhere else.
Correct. So that's a great question. Great follow-up. So this is completely volunteer. So on our website and at our workshops, we have the opportunity for people to sign up for our email list. I'll preface this by saying this email list remains purely internal. We do not share anyone's contact information. We have permission from everyone that has provided their email. We get copies of every email that is submitted as well if someone submits a comment. But yes, this is completely voluntary and we're email signups.
So essentially someone would have to know to go there to sign up. It's like.
Correct. We have not purchased, at least for this email, right, for this email list, we have not acquired outside sources for email lists.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. And I have a number, it's 303 is our email
Thank you.
subscription list today.
Thank you. I think Commissioner Berlin actually has an additional question.
Yeah, on that note, so the newsletters, just curious, are those mailed out to all Rio Grande residents?
So the newsletters are emailed out through our email news or our email list and then posted on the website and then shared with city staff to either post on on their social media or post on the city's website.
Okay.
But we have not to date we have not mailed newsletters to date.
Okay, I see that Mr. Pajarati wants to say something.
Yeah, we haven't mailed the newsletter out. We did mail out the notice with a survey and a link to the website and all of that. That went to every person in the city. Yeah.
Okay, so just looking forward in the future, as we get closer to, continuing public engagement is one of our key objectives, obviously. Is it cost prohibitive to mail hard copies? Is that why we're reluctant to do so? We've done it once. My question is there a time in the future where we remind people this is the time to get involved?
I think that could be appropriate in the future. I don't know about the newsletter itself. It's a color brochure. Mailing that out might be cost prohibitive, but something in the future that's similar to the other mailing notice, which is kind of like a card, might be something we look at.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to rely on the consultant because this is what they do. But when I hear there's only 300 people on the email list, and I know that sounds like an impressive number to you, when I think we have 18,000 people here, it's like, what? That seems like a really low number to me. So I'm just concerned, and I know all of us are doing what we can to broadcast this far and wide to let people know this is the time. Thank you, public, for showing up tonight. And so this is a good turnout for our regular meeting. We don't normally have this, so thank you for being here. And I just encourage you to continue to talk to staff and figure out what's in the budget and anything we can do to get more public engagement. I think that's hugely critical. so, you know, constructive criticism, let me say. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Can I ask one more question, kind of along those lines? Because I do think, you know, getting community engagement is of utmost importance to all of us to make sure this document what we're working on really reflects everybody. I was wondering I had the opportunity to attend the workshops, but I have not attended a pop-up. I was wondering, were there some pop-ups that seemed really successful, certain locations, certain times? That those were the really good times to grab folks, or I was just wondering about the pop-ups and how well attended they were. Thanks.
We've had several pop-ups, you know, but generally they're part of a larger event. So Harvest Festival, Farmers Market. So it's walk by. You know, sometimes I'll jump behind the booth and grab some people and, you know, give them a card. But generally, we don't have a lot of numbers, I think, from those events. So.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. I don't think we have any further questions at this point. So if you would like to move on to this portion, Michael, thank you.
Wonderful. Okay. I'll wait for is my screen still being shared on your end?
It is.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so I think just in order to allow public comment to be heard prior to discussing and making a recommendation, I think what I'll do is I'll go through the vision statement options, then go through all of the guiding principle options, hand it back over to the chair to then facilitate public comment and then ultimate discussion. So I'll start with the vision statement, and we'll break this up twofold. So kind of what is the vision statement? It's a phase of this project, but what is it? And so the vision statement is really kind of an aspirational description of what the community would like to be in the future. So think of the vision statement as a summary of the high-level goals to be achieved in the updated general plan. The vision statement is, I would say, is really important because it provides the foundation for more specific goals, policies, and programs that will be developed during the update process and that kind of that update phase. And the visioning process is valuable because it helps us in identifying issues that are important to the community and provides us early direction for the update. And it kind of vision statements have three distinct features, and they're inspirational, they're positive, comprehensive, visionary. So for our creation of these vision statements, as I had mentioned, really has come down to community engagement, community involvement. I'll preface this by saying ultimately the vision statement and the guiding principles will ultimately be selected by City Council, but the community feedback and the recommendation that we provide tonight will inform them of their decision. But the options that we are presenting to you this evening and that are out right now online for community input have all been based on community input received up until this point. So May 2024 is when our last big push was for our surveys, and that includes our workshops for 1 and 2. So the workshops held last year and this year, the surveys, comments that we've received through the website, comments we've received in supplemental writings at workshops. And we took all of that information. We then worked with city staff and the technical advisory committee to come up with and refine these options that we have before you this evening. On the right-hand side are just some of the comments and attachments that went into the formation of this vision statement option, the vision statement options and the guiding principles. I believe this is the 88 pages that was submitted to you earlier. So you have copies of all of those as well. What we really do is we pick out words and phrases and themes in these, and that ultimately crafts the vision statement. So in order to get community feedback, as that again is essential part of this project. We have an online survey out currently. We have it in both English and in Spanish, so it's translatable, and it provides these options, provides the community an opportunity to select an option of a vision statement or of the guiding principle, or they have an option to write their own or provide us a comment. We tonight will be presenting to you community feedback received up as through 11 this morning. So there is likely feedback that has come in. In fact, I know that there's been some additional feedback that has come in after that, but I'll just preface that by saying the feedback that we have for you this evening and the statistics are based off of when we exported it this morning. We do intend for the community survey to run through July 15th though. So still ample time for the community to provide feedback even after this evening. Here's just a screenshot of the survey if you haven't taken a look at it. We have it available on our website. There have been posts about it on the Facebook and on the Instagram, and we've also sent email e-blasts as well. And we've received a pretty decent amount of survey responses so far. We just released it about 2 weeks ago. So next, I would like to go and present the options to you, or what we have for your vision statements, your vision statement options. There are a total of 3 that we have developed, and I'll read through all of them, and I will highlight some key terms and phrases that were strategically picked in each of these, because each vision statement, as I'm sure you have seen, is slightly different. And capitalizes on different kind of values and different views of development or preservation. And so we've tried to capture all of the thoughts of all the community input into kind of 3 options for your consideration. So I will start with option 1. Option 1, the city of Arroyo Grande is a welcoming and vibrant community situated along California's Central Coast. It is a community that takes pride in its charming character while celebrating the different people that make it unique. The city embraces its range of housing choices, diverse local cultural and arts, historic village, and a lively and accessible East Grand Avenue. The city's infrastructure supports reliable public facilities and services, an extensive park system, and active transportation, ensuring that all residents of all ages and backgrounds can enjoy healthy and active lifestyles. Option 2, Arroyo Grande is a vibrant, diverse city with a strong sense of identity that embraces its community spirit, diversity, and inclusivity. Arroyo Grande takes pride in its extensive multimodal transportation facilities, ample parks, and numerous recreational opportunities. Arroyo Grande's dedication to strategic growth ensures that housing supply complements market demands, embracing people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds. The city serves as a model for sustainable growth, balancing development with the preservation of surrounding scenic landscapes and natural resources. In option 3, Arroyo Grande is a remarkable Central Coast community known for its historic village, vibrant East Grand Avenue, ample housing options, and welcoming community. Arroyo Grande is designed to be walkable and bike-friendly, reducing the need for driving and promoting a healthier lifestyle. Public parks and recreational facilities serve individuals of all ages, cultivating an inclusive setting where both residents and tourists can engage in recreational activities, and the community can connect to one another and their environment in a meaningful way. Arroyo Grande's pride lies in its commitment to safety, sustainability, and celebrating differences. And here's the feedback that we've received so far on these options. So option 1 has by far received the most support, a total of 43% of respondents so far have selected option 1. That is then followed by option 3 at 28%, and then option 2. Again, I had mentioned there we had created the opportunity for participants to submit in writing their own options. Those were, as I understand, were also sent out at a supplemental prior to this meeting so that you can read those submitted items. So I will move on to then the guiding principle options. So what are guiding principles? So think of guiding principles as the pillars that help support the vision statement. And guiding principles express the key values and aspiration for Arroyo Grande's future and act as guideposts for the goals and policies and implementation measures that will ultimately be contained in the updated general plan. And the principles are intended to expand on the main ideas contained in the vision statement so that the important concepts of the vision statement they gain more weight and are kind of called out. And so it's important to note that the guiding principles are purposefully broadly stated so that it allows the city, kind of guides the city throughout the development of the updated general plan. So again, similar to the vision statement, these guiding principles were developed based on the community feedback received through May 2024 and really captures these central ideas to help articulate the city's commitment to achieving not only the vision statement, but the various goals and policies in the updated general plan. So I will go over those options with you now. We developed a total of 6 guiding principles, 6 pillars for this project. And I'll go through, and we've developed guiding principle statements for each of these broad topics. Unlike the vision statements that we have drafted with the opportunity again for the community to provide their own write-in option. Here are the 6, and I will go through these options one by one. So we'll start with preservation of community pride and identity, which is our first guiding principle. And I will read the 2 options aloud. Option 1, prioritize the preservation of historic resources and landmarks to recognize the unique history and character of Arroyo Grande. Promote community events, education, and engagement to foster a strong sense of pride. Encourage quality local businesses, restaurants, and cultural events that balance the city's small town feel with the need for inclusivity, equity, and growth. Option 2 is maintain an historic charm by preserving and enhancing historic landmarks and fostering a close-knit, welcoming community. Support the development of a lively village in East Grand Avenue with local businesses, restaurants, and cultural events, creating social gathering places where neighbors can connect and celebrate the city's history. And here are the results as of today. Option 2, that 58% has gained the most support. That then followed by option 1. We've received a few comments where individuals have provided their own. Again, those are attached in the supplemental. Guiding principle number 2 has to do with recreation and community spaces. And so 2 options again for this guiding principle. Option 1, invest in public parks, community gathering spaces, and recreational facilities to provide inclusive spaces for all ages. Expand and maintain safe bike lanes and interconnected walking and biking trails to promote healthy, active lifestyles and reduce car reliance. Option 2 for this principle is support physical activity, social interactions, and events by enhancing and maintaining public parks, recreation trails, and community spaces. So far, option 1 has received the most support at 74%. We received just a few write-in comments. And then option 2 currently is in the least amount of support of the 2 options. Guiding principle number 3 is inclusivity and diversity. 2 options for this guiding principle are foster a welcoming community where all residents feel a sense of belonging and inclusion and can be different together. promote diversity, equity, and inclusivity, and encourage a community where everyone's voices are considered and valued. And option 2, promote diversity and equity across ethnic, cultural, and income levels, and strive to create an inclusive environment where every resident has equal opportunities to thrive. Currently, option 1 is 55% has gained the most support. This was one of the questions that we had received, or one of the guiding principles that we had received the most write-in feedback for, at 14%. Guiding principle 4, we just have a couple more after this. Guiding principle 4 is infrastructure and smart growth. Option 1, protect scenic assets, including open space preserves, recreational trails, hillsides, and waterways. Prioritize sustainable infrastructure development, integrating practices and technologies to minimize environmental impacts. Support the development of diverse housing options that cater to different income levels and living situations. Option 2, implement strategies to balance economic growth opportunities with the preservation of natural resources. Prioritize infrastructure investment in roads, public transportation, and community facilities to support community growth while enhancing quality of life for all residents. Support diverse housing options, catering to different income levels and family structures. So far, 50% of respondents, kind of split down the middle here, have voted for option 2, is the longer of the options, with 8% providing their own feedback. Guiding principle number 5 is economic development and local businesses. Option 1 reads, prioritize local businesses to enhance the city's economy and create a vibrant hub of community activity through a mixture of commercial and residential uses. Foster economic opportunities aligned with the job and housing market to ensure economic diversity and vitality for all residents. And option 2, support the local retail base and revitalize the East Grand Avenue corridor to create a vibrant hub of community activity and diverse housing opportunities, focusing on multifamily and missing middle housing types. Enhance existing retail centers and attract diverse commercial and housing options to ensure financial security for the city and provide residents with access to a broad range of goods and services. Option 2 has received the most support so far. And our last guiding principle number 6, is environmental sustainability. Option 1, protect scenic landscapes and natural resources from urban sprawl to preserve the city's natural beauty and agricultural heritage. Balance resource conservation with economic growth and equity to ensure that meeting today's needs does not compromise the ability of the community to meet future needs. And option 2, encourage sustainable practices in all community sectors, including energy efficiency, waste reduction, and renewable energy use. Balance resource conservation and with economic growth and equity, ensuring a sustainable future through municipal leadership and policy commitments. Option 1 so far has gained the most support of that guiding principle. So that is the options presented. I know I went through those fast, and I'm sure there's a series of questions and public comments. So I will hand it back to the chair to facilitate public comment and any questions that you might have for me.
Thank you very much for that. That was very thorough. I'll first entertain questions from my fellow commissioners. Commissioner Sackerson, do you want to start us off if you have any? Okay. Commissioner Berlin, do you have any questions?
I think I do at the present time, thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Roof? I don't have any myself. So I think we will go over to public comment now and take your comments on this agenda item. If you are in the room, please come up and introduce yourself, and you will have 3 minutes to make a public comment. And if you are, and then we'll move to Zoom after everyone in the room is done making comment. And if you are on Zoom, you can raise your hand and that's how we'll recognize you then. So we'll start with here in the room if anyone would like to make a public comment on this item. I don't think so.
Oh,
Yeah,
we
there you go.
Okay. Hi again. My name is Gaia Powell. And that was a beautiful presentation and a lot of pretty words and very designed to pull at the heartstrings. And it's wonderful that everyone in the community has been encouraged to reach out and share their feedback. I hope that would just be a standard that our city would do all the time to get even, through an online survey. I am a business consultant, so it's really hard for me to see our city spending, it's going to end up being about $1.2 million on this project. And just the first phase of the project, interestingly, is during a mayoral election year. And I don't know if the public or y'all really realize that this is about, it's a dog and pony show that looks really pretty, but this is about trying to convince the public, in my opinion, to vote for a sales tax to be implemented on Arroyo Grande. So the city council has just approved that initiative be put on the ballot. And this is kind of the propaganda, a sales pitch to get that done. And I think a lot of people don't realize that because it's kind of hidden, and I don't think people really read all the words.
I don't know if this is actually related to the general plan update.
Okay.
That's our agenda item right now is the general plan update, the
S-
vision statement as
Okay.
well as the.
All right.
Yeah.
So what I'm also very concerned about is what is mentioned in this, what this gentleman has just presented is a lot of, the city has a DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, social justice policy that is anti-American. And somebody else will read about that in a moment. But it's very concerning that the city hired this consultant at great cost and then hired a DEI consultant to basically make sure that the DEI policy is integrated into this, what he just talked about. So it's unbelievable to me that the guiding principle topics include preservation of community pride and identity, that's total DEI, and inclusivity and diversity. We are a welcoming town. We don't need any all this, frankly, BS. It's like, we have a general plan that's already in place, and the guidance that this gives is sufficient. If it needs to be updated, just like it was intended to be, that's fine. But we don't need to change it into some social justice type general plan just to appease the city's DEI policy or some of the ideology that maybe some of our city leaders have. So I encourage everyone in the public to read this so they can educate themselves and not be fooled. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Michael Ponsalon. I'll just read an excerpt from a March 2024 CNN article. What is DEI and why is it dividing America? Diversity, equity, and inclusion programs have come under attack in boardrooms, state legislatures, and college campuses across the country. Since 2023, 81 anti-DEI bills that target programs at colleges have been introduced in 28 states and in Congress. 8 have been signed into law. A 2023 survey by the Pew Research Center found that 52% of employed U.S. adults say they have DEI trainings or meetings at work, and 33% say they have a designated staff member who promotes DEI. But recently, some companies have slashed teams dedicated to DEI, and wealthy corporate leaders such as Bill Ackman and Elon Musk have made posts on social media that decried diversity programs. Critics say DEI programs are discriminatory and attempt to solve racial discrimination by disadvantaging other groups, in particular, white Americans. What are critics saying? In recent years, DEI has become a social and political lightning rod for lawmakers, corporate leaders, and even conservative activists who have sought to cast the initiatives as unfair and even racist. Some critics were emboldened by the Supreme Court's decision to gut affirmative action last June. Christopher Rufo, a senior fellow at the Manhattan Institute and an outspoken critic of DEI, wrote in a New York Times op-ed last year that these are not neutral programs to increase demographic diversity. They are political programs that use taxpayer resources to advance a specific partisan orthodoxy. The Claremont Institute, a conservative think tank, holds a similar position. Ryan P. Williams, president of the Institute, previously told CNN he believes the ideology behind DEI is fundamentally anti-American. The words that the acronym DEI represent sound nice, but it is nothing more than affirmative action and racial preferences by a different name. A system that features racial headcounts and arbitrarily assigned roles of oppressor and oppressed groups in America. Williams said in an emailed statement, if we continue to do democracy this way, it will only end in acrimony, strife, resentment, and American collapse. Earlier this year, billionaire investor Bill Ackman posted a 4,000-word opus on X that criticized DEI as an inherently a racist and illegal movement in its implementation, even if it purports to work on behalf of the so-called oppressed. Ackman's lengthy thesis was later reposted by billionaire Tesla and SpaceX CEO Elon Musk, who now owns the social media platform. DEI is just another word for racism. Shame on anyone who uses it, Musk wrote in his post. In a follow-up post, Musk doubled down, adding
Thank you.
DEI because it discriminates on the basis of race, gender, and many other factors.
Thank
It is
you.
not merely immoral, but illegal.
Thank you, sir.
Hello, members of the Planning Commission. I'm Shannon Kessler, a local resident and small business owner. And I thank you again for your time and attention to this and for including the public. I did find the website easy to use and I have submitted comments myself and I appreciated the options already made. But I also have some concerns with changes I noticed compared to the previous general plan. So this new plan has 6 major themes and most of the themes match those in the old general plan, except for number 3, inclusivity and diversity. So this one also didn't match the others. The other plans tended to deal with the physical changes involved in a general plan. I understand it's part of a vision statement, but I did notice this was a very standout statement compared to the others that had to do with the types of buildings, where the buildings would be, where the roads would be, and such. My other concern with this statement is that it's how do you plan to enforce this inclusivity, diversity, and equity? And I didn't find necessarily clear definitions of those. Of course, those are buzzwords being used in culture presently, but I'd like to know what the city's definition of each of those terms is, if they're going to be included. And again, I question their need to be included at all, because I agree, we are a welcoming community, a just and fair community. And if someone is in a place where they do not feel they're being treated fairly, we have the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of California, which I just reviewed this afternoon, which ensure fairness, equity in application of laws and housing. So if I believe we're not needing this addition to an existing good general plan because people already have this, and it's always dangerous in law to add laws, that tends to trounce upon the rights of the people. I also noticed at the end of the 2001 general plan that there was a statement about constitutional compliance. Should any provision of this general plan, including any element thereof, cause regulatory taking in its application to the specific property, then that provision shall be relaxed to the least extent necessary to eliminate the regulatory taking, while continuing to preserve the intent of the provision and the general plan. I noticed in the new plan, there's no reference to the Constitution, so that also provides a concern. thank you for taking the time to listen and including public feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other, thank you.
Hi, my name is Kay Lawton, and I'm a relatively new resident. I didn't plan anything, and I've not looked extensively at things, so I'll just give you my top of mind impression. It's a beautiful plan. It's beautifully done and, you know, very thorough. What hits me also is anything that mentions DEI. My wish, my plead is please stay away from it. We moved here for the reasons that we wanted to get away from all of that. That is what makes this a well-preserved place. I hope that this will not change the feel and the culture of what we have found to be a beautiful place to live. It's a wonderful relief from that. My assessment of that is, can we keep to planning? Perhaps that's physical planning. Stay out of my home, stay out of my living room, stay out of my bedroom. I don't need to know what anybody else does in theirs, and I don't want them to know what I do in mine. That's for me to invite people in. I hope that we can do that in this community as we consider whatever this plan consists of. I would ask that we remain that a priority of ours be to remain fiscally sound. I get a lot of education from people far smarter than me who say that these plans are put in place, and one of the last considerations is, what can we afford? What can we pay for? So thinking of that before we begin any of this, to me, is the most sound, responsible thing that we can do as a community. States are broke, cities are broke, and hopefully we wouldn't fall into that category with any big, you know, grand, lovely plans that we might have. The plan is, the language is very broad. I found it confusing, so I was wanting to sort of graph out what are the phrases and maybe adjectives and descriptions in one that are not in another, and what's the difference, because I get tangled up in lots of words and phrases. And so I just leave you with that impression. And the only other thing is, with all due respect to Porsche owners, I would love to see the Porsche taken off of that image. That does not depict this community. And I just do not think that that is a welcoming image. I love a Porsche like the next guy does. That to me is not what typifies the perhaps average or a mainstream, you know, resident in Arroyo Grande. So again, kudos to this beautiful plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, should I reintroduce myself, or am I okay to just go?
Go ahead.
Okay, so I could spend the next 3 minutes talking about deconstructing the arguments against DEI, why it's literally nothing more than just giant scare words and all of that fun stuff. I don't want to, I don't think my timer's running. Oh, there.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I could spend the time doing that. I don't really think that's a worthy use of my time, other than to say that I have spoken to people. I have friends who are very uncomfortable walking through the community, who are scared. I know this was brought up a lot when we were discussing whether or not to have the pride flag up. I feel like rehashing those old arguments or trying to discuss any of the reason why people like Elon Musk and Bill Ackman have financial incentives to slash DEI initiatives. I would also like to say that DEI, the best way to put it is, it covers parts of our history that we don't normally talk about. We want to preserve our cultural identity and the historical identity of Arroyo Grande. Let's do that. Let's talk about the members of this community who fought with the 442nd during World War II. I've heard that mentioned once, and all the times I've heard about this community's history, and I think it should be mentioned more. That is an amazing part of our legacy. Another thing is, I want to thank the company that helped develop that plan. I understand that because it's a mission plan, needs to be a bit broad in order to account for nuance, and you run the risks of going too specific and then not being able to pull back out. I will say, though, a little bit of defining of certain terms would be nice. I would also like to say, my hope is that we do see a prioritization of sustainability initiatives. I know that the trails out by James Way, extremely nice to walk around on those. That kind of thing I'd love to see focused on more, because natural environments within 5 cities, I've seen this especially with like the Pismo Beach area, draw in tourism. I mean, we want to talk about funding this. Tourism is a great way to fund this, and being welcoming, saying, hey, we don't mind who you are, come in, make sure that you respect the laws here. Don't try going shoplifting or go buy some illegal fireworks, but making sure that you are respectful in that manner, and also enjoy yourself. We have been here for 150 years. We want to, or plus, we want to continue being here, and we'd love to have you here. But in order to be here for another 150 years, we have to be sustainable with our planning, with the environmental resources at our disposal, and also with how we let outside interests in. I mean, there have been plenty of communities that have just said, outside interests, come in, fund us, and fallen victim to those outside interests when they leave and been broke, destitute. So that is something that I feel like we should be watching out for. Finally, I want to once again thank the commission for allowing us to have a say in this. As a young person who feels like his voice isn't really valued at the national level, when you have 150 million people voting in an election, it's nice to be able to talk at a city meeting and have it known that I am being heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Liz Worthen. I'm an Arroyo Grande resident. Thank you so much for all of your time, Planning Commission. I know it is all volunteer. I find this plan update to be a really exciting opportunity for us as a community as we look forward. I wanted to use my time tonight to recommend a few specific points that I want to advocate for as you ultimately make your recommendation. Our town of AG is a wonderful place to live, to visit. It is beautiful, it is charming, and it is also in need of a large infusion of money to be able to better serve residents and maintain needed infrastructure. In order to achieve some of the qualities mentioned in the vision statements and guiding principles, we simply must have a way to generate revenue to help pay for them. We cannot have more parks, more bike trails, more services, without also finding a way to generate revenue to cover the costs. Luckily for us, our town is full of opportunity. The East Grand Corridor, which is closer to where I live, has the potential to be a lot more than it is now, but we need to be comfortable embracing some of the changes to make that happen. There are 3 places in these vision statements and guiding principles that can help us gain momentum as for the necessary development and help us keep these goals in the forefront as we continue through the update. So for the vision statement, I wanted to advocate for number 1, which emphasizes a lively, accessible East Grand Avenue and highlights a range of housing options. For principle number 4, I wanted to advocate for option 2, which specifically calls out economic growth and needed infrastructure improvements and diverse housing options. And for number 5, I honestly like parts of both, but I wanted to advocate for option 2, which called out revitalizing Grand Avenue, being a vibrant hub of community activity and diverse housing options, and it mentioned ensuring financial security for the city, providing residents with access to a broad range of goods and services. Ultimately, I do feel your commission has the opportunity to make a recommendation that could truly shape where we work to move in the future. I believe we need clearer direction so more people want to come and invest and build in our community. I think we should ask ourselves, what would motivate people to choose Arroyo Grande as a place to invest and bring new development opportunities? I believe we must create a vision that is exciting, promising, and extremely clear. One that will not lead to approvals of projects based on subjective likes or dislikes. We need to use the plan update to make it very clear what we hope to see on East Grand Avenue and commit to the vision so people want to come invest in our town and bring needed housing, more goods and services, and ultimately provide for us economically. I would love for us to find a way to make our town more accessible, more bikeable, but we also need to find ways to fund that. And without thoughtful growth, I don't think we will be able to. So in closing, I ask that you please consider these principles that call out Grand Avenue specifically and focus on housing generation at multiple levels. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I hate to have to follow that one up. My name is Jared. I'm an AG resident. Thanks to each of you guys for volunteering for our city. And thanks to city staff and to you and your team, Michael. I know how much work it goes into the behind the scenes to get these meetings put on. As I mentioned, I'm an AG resident. My wife and I chose to put down our roots and raise our family here in this wonderful community. As a member of AG's T-Bid board, the city's grant committee, and the Harvest Festival committee, I have the privilege to see firsthand many of the people and qualities that make this place so special. I'm here to advocate on some of the particulars as well. I'm here to advocate for Vision Statement 1. The character, community, and charm of AG are some of our greatest assets. I believe that to maintain those, we need to embrace change and growth. The East Grand Corridor has an immense amount of potential that we can make a reality. This general plan update is a decisive moment for our city. This isn't just an annual plan. This is a pivotal moment that sets us on a course for the next 2 to 3 decades. I think the guiding principles 5, 4, and 1 are most vital to the future of this security of AG. For guiding principle 5, I think option 2 is a vision that will move the needle to secure the financial future for AG. Encouraging local economic growth will provide more jobs and more top-line tax revenue that's muchly needed. Guiding principle 4, option 2, for similar reasons to the last, one addition to that I would like to see would mention increases in density and even easing parking requirements in the East Grand Corridor, making density and development easier there. Lastly is the guiding principle 1, option 2. I think preserving our character is vitally important. To do that, our city needs to be in a fiscally secure place. For that, we need economic growth and increased developmental density to lower the per square foot tax basis and burden on those properties. While those are my preferences, whichever vision we choose, we need to be explicitly clear in what fits for AG's vision. I hope that would be a more dense East Grand core that lowers tax burden, that drives economic feasibility for projects and businesses, and that allows our city to be more walkable and bikeable. But even if that isn't the specific vision the city chooses, we need to clearly communicate to those looking to invest that if they match our vision, the city will be a partner in getting their projects to completion and not a roadblock. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not started yet. There you go. So couple of things. First,
Can you introduce yourself?
I'm Alexandria Davis. I'm a renter in Arroyo Grande who is actually quite glad to be part of the city. Something I did notice in the there we go. Something I did notice that I did really like was the term multimodal transportation. I know that's not the phrase used in the popular option, but I did really enjoy that phrase. But also, I'd like to speak on some of the comments that I saw flipping through the answers. And I think that change is something that can be scary, but I also know that it's important because as things are now, that's not how they're going to be forever. And on top of that, I make quite a bit of money and my rent eats up a good chunk of it. And I'm not like renting a house, I'm renting an apartment. So the change part does feel like something that does need to come. And I do appreciate the prospect of being able to do it in a way that benefits everyone rather than in a way that leaves some people behind.
Thank you so much.
Ask first if I can.
Can you
comment.
introduce yourself real quick?
Oh, sure. I'm Judy Cicchetti. Can I talk about the circulation yet, or is it too soon?
I think it's probably I'm looking over to you guys for guidance on this.
That's fine if
It's
it
fine?
is. I just
Okay.
wasn't sure. Too soon?
No, I think it's fine. Yeah, we're
Okay.
probably not at that point yet, but you
Okay,
can feel
sorry.
free to speak on it.
First off, I am Judy Cicchetti. I've lived here all my life, and I am not even remotely in favor of any kind of stoplights or a roundabout at Corbett and Wasna. I don't think it would work. I think maybe some stop signs with some lights around them so people know they're supposed to stop there. And also I would like to remind like probably everybody on the city that the village does not, or Arroyo Grande does not stop at Bank of America. It continues to Old Oak Park or 18th Street. That part of town seems to be very forgotten by everyone, and everyone thinks that one block is what Arroyo Grande is. And I don't really agree that that is everything. And for the amount of money that the consultants are charging, 303 people are not very many people for our city for what, over $1 million. I don't know how anybody else can be reached, but, and I will say that I did get 3 emails. I don't know if they're put out by the consultants or someone else, but I still don't think 300 is a sufficient amount for our town. And I also would like to remind everybody that people that live out of the city limits also have an address that says Arroyo Grande, and they drive through town and they spend money in our town. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else in the room this evening that would like to give public comment on this item?
Good evening. My name is Glenn Martin. I live on Olive Street, been a 30-plus year resident here in Arroyo Grande. Thanks for everybody that's here, that's listening and participating and leading in this project. I've just got a couple comments. One, I'm going to piggyback on what Commissioner Berlin has questioned about getting the word out to the community. If we have a little over 6,000 households in the community, 300 in an email list is just shy of 5%. That may be a really good, strong number from a statistical standpoint. But from my position, I think that's a little bit like preaching to the choir. We've got 300 people that are actively engaged in it. I strongly encourage the city to devote those funds that are necessary. I don't think we need to put out a multicolor brochure every single time something needs to be done, but I think that there are undoubtedly a couple of key times where a mailer to every single household and every single business address would be very, very beneficial to expand that group. The other thing I'd like to say, there's an awful lot of verbiage in here on these vision statements, et cetera. I didn't see anything that talked about tourism. When we talk about creating infrastructure and supporting the community and things of that nature, we're not Pismo Beach, we're not Avila Beach, we're not Hermosa Beach, but we are Arroyo Grande. And I think that there should be some mention of some kind that talks about encouraging and welcoming visitors into our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else in the room like to make comment on this evening? No one jumping up about, I will go to online, and then if anyone else would like to, you can always come back up after that. Is there anyone online that would like to make comment on this item?
Any member of the public on Zoom would like to make a comment on this item, please raise your hand or use the *9 feature if you're calling in. Chair, we have no raised hands.
Thank you. Last chance for public comment on this item in the room. Okay, I will close public comment. I guess my question for staff at this point is what you would like to see from the commission in terms of the next steps for this. Would you like more of a discussion? Would you like, I don't know, I'm assuming you need a motion at some point of to recommend something to city council, but how do we want to get there?
Chair, if I can, it looks like we had one more hand raised. So if we
Yeah, for sure.
We have Mike Harris on line. I will allow him to speak. So
Absolutely.
Mike, if you can unmute yourself, and you should be able to speak at this point.
I'm just concerned that there's a lot of money being spent for this plan, and right now, again, with only 300 emails and stuff, it's a very small percentage. And my business background stuff is I didn't spend a lot of money on consultants, so this 1.2 million figure for this plan sounds like an outrageous amount for consultants when we actually vote for public officials to be doing the work, not farming it out and wasting our taxpayer dollars on consultants.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that popped on?
No more hands are
Okay,
raised.
thanks. So I go back to my question.
So yes, so it's a great question because that's why we're here. We have a couple of alternatives. We are anticipating the planning commission would do some discussion, look at the vision statements and guiding principles, and if possible, recommend one vision statement and one guiding principle from each of the major themes, or recommend revision, combining of any of those vision statements and guiding principles and recommending those to the city council. Keep in mind, we don't have to necessarily have, you know, a set vision statement and guiding principle that we send. All the public comment is going to be incorporated and sent on to the city council. Your discussion will as well. So we'll take that kind of as we go. Ideally, we could have something, but at the end, but I don't know that's completely necessary.
Thank you. That's helpful for me. Hopefully that's helpful for my fellow commissioners too.
And for a second, I'd just like to answer, because it came up a few times about DEI. I wanted to just kind of give planning's view of that and why it's in the plan. And I think there's lots of ideas out there about in the media about what DEI is and what it's not. From a planning perspective, I think it's important for us to identify what that means for our plan. And so for planning, the principles of DEI are sort of, they're generally intertwined, and they have been for a long time. Some of those things come out with increased community engagement and trying to ensure that through our policies, certain areas or populations are not overly impacted by land use decisions that we're making. Some of the things that you see that are DEI related are hybrid meetings, for instance, right? Providing daycare at our workshops, providing different times for workshops. So these are all things that are intended to kind of provide a little more community engagement, try to get and reach out to as many people in the communities as possible. Spanish translation. So that's one of the things we've had for our documents and at our workshops. Some tenets of DEI are built into state law. So we have building codes, we have accessibility curb ramps, for instance, and pathway widths, things like that. You know, things like affirmative action, that's not part of this. Affirmative action, as you may or may not know, was outlawed in California in the 90s. So that doesn't exist in California, at least on a legal basis. On a bigger picture, it's not an enforcement tool. It's not a law. It doesn't involve with anything getting into people's homes. Really, we hired a DEIJ consultant to look at our work as we're going along, and sometimes need to look at it from that lens. So does the policy impact, you know, we'll write out these policies and take a critical look at those. Do they impact a certain neighborhood or people more than the overall population? Does this policy apply equally or equitably to all? Are we hearing all the voices in the community? So I just wanted to throw that out from a bigger picture. It's, you know, it's welcoming new people, different people, having more housing opportunities and access for all. So that's sort of just the bigger picture that we're looking at with and why we have DEI in some of the, conversations regarding the general plan update.
Thank you, Mr. Petrati. I also wanted to clarify that this is not the entire plan. I noticed that with public comment at some point in time of, these are just the vision statement and guiding principles of the plan. There's many parts of this plan to come, as was shown in the timeline. This is I think 3 more years to go on this. So aspects that might feel like they're missing right now, there's 3 more years that we have to go through, to put all the details into this plan. This is really just like that 40,000 foot view of things. It's not meant to have all these details at this particular time. So I just wanted to clarify that, because I heard it a few times. I was figuring with us, if you wanted this to be a more open discussion rather than, very formal, but hopefully you're all okay with that.
Just before I forget this thought, before we get into the discussion, I think it's important to point out that this discussion, we're an advisory body to City Council. So tonight's discussion, we're going to give our thoughts and hopefully some guidance on how we would like to see things move forward. But also, this survey is still up until July 15th. So for anything to be set in stone, whether tonight or at next week's City Council meeting, would be premature anyway. So I would urge you sitting here in this room, if you're like, man, 303 people on an email list is just not enough. This is not representative of what I know my neighbors think or we think. Please help us get the word out. I mean, really, when we talk about community outreach, we have a very bare bones city staff who work so incredibly hard every day to do all of the things. This is just one aspect of what they have to handle. As mentioned, we're volunteers. We care deeply about these issues. You're all volunteering your time to sit here and give very valuable input. So thank you for that. But please help us get that word out. If you can get each of you 1 or 2 people to sign up on the email, I mean, that's another possibly 50 people that we could have giving feedback. So that was just my little comment on that.
Thank you. It was a great comment.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
let me inject one more time, because I forgot to say also the 300 people number also. Keep in mind that is the number of people who have given us their email address. That doesn't necessarily mean, that's probably on the lower end. There are probably many more, because a lot of people have not given us their email address to be on the list. We've received comments at pop-up events. Folks maybe at workshops did not give their email addresses. So that doesn't really represent the body of people who have provided input. So
thank you.
We'll try to nail that down toward the end too, eventually.
It's complicated sometimes.
I just have one more question before we get into the discussion. On the themes that are the guiding principles, they're labeled, ordered kind of like 1 through 6. Is that prioritized, or that just happens to be? It's not like 1 is the most important, 2 is the next. It's not in that order. It's just these are the things we care about in general. Just clarifying that.
That's a really good question. So the 6 themes were created based on the public input we've received so far. And the order in which they're listed are indicative of the number of comments we got related to each theme. So preservation of historic charm and community identity was the most common comment we received throughout the feedback. So 1 through 6 in that way is how they're ordered.
So just to confirm, they're kind of ordered by community engagement, so to speak.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That was really helpful.
I'm sorry. I just feel like you all can hear me.
Actor. Michael, I'm not sure if you heard that comment. Can you switch to the slide that lists the 6 guiding principle themes?
Absolutely. One moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. I feel like it's a relevant thing to look at as we talk about it, because especially knowing that this is based on the engagement that we had in workshops where people either came or came to a pop-up and said, okay, this is what I would like to have us focus on. As we continue our discussion, I think that's relevant.
Absolutely.
And if I may add to Andrew's comments, so yes, in at least the way that they are kind of presented here, this was really just placed in based on yes, it is based on the amount of feedback received. However, not one guiding principle is more important than another. So I think that's an important clarification. While they are kind of listed in the order that we received comments, it's not meaning that one is more important than six. So hopefully that also clarifies.
That does. How to start this off.
Can I ask one question? Can I ask one question of you, Michael? So these guiding principle topics that you have on the slide, were those, I understand how they were formulated and, brought up by number of the public participating in workshops and what have you. Had those same topics, somebody mentioned, referred to a list of themes from a previous general plan update. And I'm wondering, were those consulted with? Did you look at what was existing before, what our list was of themes from the okay.
No, the answer is no, we did not. This is purely based on community feedback. No outside sources were referenced. This is purely from results and written comment from the community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I'm thinking that maybe we discuss vision statements first, and then we can kind of move on to the guiding principles. Since I think those will be, yeah.
I'll take a stab if you want me to go for it. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay, so just reading through them all, I think as members of the public have noted, and we've probably noted, there's a lot of overlap, a lot of common themes, because they do come from the same, data. Two, I don't have a really strong opinion about option 1, option 2, option 3, but I did highlight 2 kind of key phrases that I'd really like to see in whatever. I'm open to everybody's suggestions, but it's interesting that the commenter mentioned the lively, accessible East Avenue. That was one that I had highlighted because when we did
I
that
did
big
too.
map and we all looked at it, we do a lot of work here in the village promoting it, promoting businesses here. And I feel like that's just such an underutilized area. It's such when we did all those little dots and it says, where do you think there's a potential? I put a big dot on there. Like, this is a huge potential for our city. So whatever we select as a vision, I would really like to see that included. And I think it'd be an easy phrase to kind of
I
paste
completely
in
agree.
if we want to do the others. And then this is just me looking through all those postcards, but I kind of did a little tally of everybody who turned in postcards that we reviewed in the 80 pages. And bikeability and walkability were like over and away what people talked about on those. And so I know in all of the statements, we have mentioned like active transportation and multimodal transportation, but I really liked this phrase in option 3. I'm not saying I want option 3, but just Arroyo Grande is designed to be walkable and bike friendly, reducing the need for driving and promoting a healthier lifestyle. I think we should call out bikeability and walkability by name. It doesn't have to be that phrase, but I would like to see that just based on the feedback that folks have given. So I'm open to any. I'd really like to see the East Grand Ave and bikeable, walkable as part of what we come up with.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking the same thing. The options are so similar, but for me, I would love to see something in there talking about the range of housing choices and really calling out different ages, incomes, and backgrounds. And making sure that that's included within our vision statement of having different housing choices for a wide variety of people and calling it out specifically, especially income levels.
There we go. We get to be three.
We keep getting confused with
I
this.
know. So I'm gonna say I echo the statement that we have three very good vision statements. I mean, these are aspirational. What do we want our city to look like in the next 15 to 20 years? So none of this is going to be that fine line. This is exactly how we're going to get there. This is just what would we hope for at best case scenario so that we can then build our municipal code and our other general plan elements to help us get there. So I'm going to say I agree. I actually would love to take bits from the three and piece them together. And I'm going to say I love the idea of calling out our two areas of development, East Grand Avenue, the Village. These are very important areas for, I think, everybody who lives here, whether you see tourists come and explore East Grand Avenue or not, they should. That's where our tax dollars will come from if we can. They could, exactly. I agree that we need to focus on bikeability and walkability. I'm open to multimodal. That language is not as vital to me as far as which we choose, but I agree that we should include that as a line item because more than ever, us having a parking issue shouldn't be the reason why we can't grow. If we can make it so where people can buy things where they work where they live, and all the above, it would be great. I'm going to say I love the line in option 2 of our dedication to strategic growth, ensuring that housing supply complements market demands, embracing people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds. That sentence is so important to me from a planning perspective, because we can't continue to thrive in a city that can only accommodate people who make well above the average income level for the nation. I mean, we can't only be a city of affluent citizens. So including that in our vision statement, I think, is absolutely vital.
I had that line also highlighted, but I did want to change it slightly.
Sure.
Of saying the housing supply complements market demands while embracing.
Sure.
Just to ensure, because sometimes market demands might not necessarily embrace a lower income person, but I want to make sure that we are embracing people of all, economic.
I will say, I don't think I need the city to serve as a model for I don't need our city to serve. If we do it right, we will be a model. That's just extraneous to me.
Yeah.
That's what I had to say about that.
Mr. Berlin.
Yeah, I agree with what my commissioners are saying in large part. I do have a question, and maybe this goes back to Michael, because in my research about a vision statement and how it works for cities, it seems like ours is way too complex. We're trying to include everything we want to do in one paragraph. And I don't know that that's doable. We're going to forget something, or we're going to be overly broad. So anyways, in comparison, I asked the internet, as you do, what do other cities do? And so my good friends at AI, I mean, I'll share with you just some of the other ones. And I'm not saying that we copy somebody else's work, but I had a very simplistic one that I submitted as my own. And I'm not advocating of this, but it's just much more simplistic. So bear with me while I read it. I'm not saying this is the one, but it kind of incorporates a lot of the principles that we're talking about. So it says, cherishing Arroyo Grande, cherishing our historic charm and unique community identity, we embrace sustainable growth and inclusive prosperity for generations to come. Talk about political statement, very ambiguous about what that means. It's simple, and it captures a lot of what we're trying to say. So my question goes back to Michael is I see the options that you've laid out for us, and should we just stay with those? Because I think it's really hard to try to come up with this perfect vision statement and then build supporting things around it. So I'm kind of stuck. So let me go back to my other observation about other cities and some of their vision statements. So, hard to find a city. There's nothing comparable to AG, of course. So I looked up Orchid. Orchid's not a city, doesn't count. They don't have one. So I looked up Cayucas. Cayucas isn't a city, doesn't count. So I go to another cool little town. Now it's a beach town, so it doesn't count, but Pacifica, okay, Bay Area up there, working blue collar class right on the coast. Pacifica, coastal living at its best. That's their vision statement. That simple. Now it says the vision statement reflects Pacifica's identity as a coastal community. And so then they give a supporting statement about it emphasizes the city's commitment to maintaining and enhancing its coastal environment, quality of life, and community character. It encapsulates Pacifica's aspiration to provide a high quality of life for residents and visitors alike, while preserving its natural beauty and unique coastal charm. So my question goes to you, Michael, is this vision statement options that we laid out, you want us to stick with that complexity of a paragraph? Really tough to do. I think we can come up with a much simpler 2-sentence statement about how we want to live and design our community without getting into all of those details in this kind of overlay of a sentence, paragraph. Can you help me on that?
Absolutely. Great comment. Yeah. And a lot to unpack. So I'll try to hit it. And if I miss a piece, let me know. So as far as other communities visioning, there's really no state requirement to have a visioning and guiding principles process as part of a general plan. This is really just a tool that we have found to be beneficial. And it help, at least as us as consultants, and help really the residents encapsulate what their vision is for the future. But there is by no means a requirement to have a vision statement and guiding principles. In comparison to those jurisdictions that we have prepared vision statements and guiding principles for, I would say this is about average. As you can imagine, just the sheer number of responses that we've received from the community so far throughout this project, we've received varying viewpoints and multitude of topics that we're trying to cover and very complex issues. And so when you start to put all of those pieces together, you end up with quite an elaborate vision statement. There is certainly nothing wrong with reducing it and streamlining it. I would say, let's just make it unique to Arroyo Grande though. And if there are certain items that are important, let's add them. And if there aren't, and if that adds complexity, then I would say, so be it. But if there's the opportunity where we can reduce it and streamline it, yes, I think there would be no issues doing that. And we welcome your input and at least for us, it'd be very helpful on the consultant's end to get a written down version of your comment if we haven't already received one.
That's helpful. Thank you.
I respect your research, Bruce. I know I didn't do the level of research and looking up other cities. To me personally, I'm just going to push back a little bit in terms of let's take coastal living at its finest. For some people, that means keep out all the poor people because we don't want them living here. I'm just saying, just being honest. That's the way some people may interpret that. So I would prefer that our vision specifically calls out the values that we as a city think are important. And if we want to be inclusive as a city to all ages, incomes, and backgrounds, I think we should say that. That's just my, I'm not
No, that's fair. That's good.
criticizing.
I think I'm kind of leaning in that direction as well, although I do, again, appreciate all the work that you put into this. But it did even seem like with Pacifica that they had the one line, but they also had a definition of the one line too.
Yeah.
So really altogether, that's like what we're looking at anyway. So I think we already kind of have it, there.
Yeah, and I think the options we have are good options, but they're all,
It's
they
hard.
definitely, as we all picked and choose the one sentence that we really wanted to make sure we include, I do kind of like the idea of hybridizing and distilling those down to a simpler, but, you know, including everything that we say is of value to, not just to us, but to everybody, to the 20,000 people that call this place home and visit here. So that's the task that we all know is monumental. And it's not, as you all talked about, it's not going to happen here tonight.
No.
But certainly this is, put the info in the hopper and let's see what we can come up with. Because I think it's a good start. I really appreciate the work that the committee's done and the consultant has done to get us this far, just to give us, those are pretty good options, really. And still being open to other people's output about writing their own. I think that's also a good thing to do. So I appreciate your comments and completely agree that let's do the work to get the details worked out. That's fine.
Absolutely. Would staff, would kind of what we've given you so far help at all? Or would you like us to really hash out like word for word? Knowing that we're not going to be the ones that are writing the final words on this anyway, so.
Yeah, the comments so far have been, certainly helpful. I don't know if it's realistic to ask, which of the three you prefer, and then we can edit that as we've heard the comments. That might be one way to go. If you have an alternative solution, I'd be happy to hear it. Or we can, if you trust staff with
How
kind
does
of
everyone
rewriting it, we
feel?
can.
I'm just speaking to myself personally. I'm sorry. I feel like I interrupted you. I was going back and forth with option 1 and option 2. Option 3 wasn't really my jam. I wasn't really going towards that one. So I honestly think either one of option 1 or option 2 with the kind of input that we gave additionally with the specific things to call out would be fine for me. But I also want to hear everyone else's opinions on this.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I would be happy with either 1 or 2. The only thing that's not in 2 is I just really feel strongly about the East Grand Avenue thing, and I'm okay with the multimodal. I think to most people, they're not gonna know what I'm worried people might know more what active transportation is. I don't know if people would know what multimodal is. So I'm fine with number 1 or 2. If we do 2, is there a way to just include the 2 different parts of the city in it?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was leaning towards.
Okay.
I like the language in both. I don't see why we can't hybridize the 2. I mean, really in option 2, it sounds like Chair Maravilia and I both feel strongly about the housing supply component. And as long as that's included, I'm happy. I do think it's a very good point to name out the village and the East Grand Corridor as areas that we want to have be a focal point, and throw in the multimodal or active transportation. I'm good with either. To be honest, I don't know any citizen that's going to 3 years from now sit down and read the general plan vision statement. If they do, fantastic. If not, really, it's a guidepost for us doing the work going forward. You might do it.
And one thing, if I can interrupt, as we progress through the general plan update process and we start, crafting goals, objectives, policies, implementation programs, we're going to refer back to the vision statement and these guiding principles. So if it's a priority, it very well should be in these statements.
Let me just weigh in. I agree. I think my own personal preference, if I had to choose among the 3, was option number 1. And then interesting enough, option 3 was what the general public on the survey said was their number 2 choice. But, and I think if we pull that one sentence that we all like about the walkable, bike friendly, that sentence that's in option 3, and we pull the sentence that you and Commissioner Sackerson have been, that Jamie, you and Commissioner Sackerson have been liking, which I do too, about the market demands and embracing people of all ages, blah, blah, blah. I think if we throw those two into one, we have a pretty nice statement that I think we'd all concur with.
What if we just in number one, it seems like the housing sentence is the city embraces its range of housing choices, but what if we used the um the option 2 statement about strategic growth ensures housing supply complements? What if we just took that specific calling out of the housing and put that as opposed to the just housing choices as like a generic term, like spell that out a little more with the,
I like that. Just,
I would be okay with that too.
and I think by doing that, we're touching on some of the public comment we heard. Sorry.
oh, sorry.
By doing that, we're also touching on some of the public comment we heard tonight about economic development and Ms. Chicchetti's comment about East Grand Avenue. So I think we're touching on a lot of the stuff that we heard here and in the workshops prior. So I think us crafting this together would be a nice fit.
Can I take a stab at it? Okay, so I'm pulling from all three and I'm adding a little bit because Mr. Martin had a great point about mentioning tourists or visitors. I think that's a very, very vital point to include. So I'm literally pulling a sentence from each of the three. I currently have the city of Arroyo Grande is a welcoming and vibrant community that takes pride in its charming character while celebrating its citizens and valuing its visitors. The city is designed to be walkable and bike-friendly, reducing the need for driving and promoting a healthier lifestyle. Arroyo Grande's dedication to strategic growth ensures that housing supply complements market demands while embracing people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds.
All right, did we miss? It's hard to
No,
not.
no, it's fine. It's fine.
We're calling it back. Did you call out East Grand in there?
Oh, no, you're right. I didn't. I wanted to put that sentence. You're right. Here we go.
Did that one have the parks and recreational opportunities in it too? From number
No,
2?
we did not from number 2. No, we just did I just did the walking and bike friendly part.
Okay.
So we can add.
Did you say that people preferred number 1 in the survey? Okay.
So I'm including the city features a vibrant historic village and lively and accessible East Grand Avenue. You want me to put in the sentence about the infrastructure supporting reliable? Which sentence are you talking about that you want for the?
Well, I was just wondering if Parks and Rec were in there.
No.
somewhere.
So designed to be walkable and bike.
Reliable public facilities and services, is that not, you want it to be more specific, calling out Parks and Rec? Prefer it.
I don't know. Yeah, I think so. I think
Okay.
Yeah, I think so, especially noting how many people called it out individually within surveys or anything like that.
Yeah.
Sure. Sure, 1 second.
Putting an undue burden on you.
No, I mean, somebody.
I know,
had to
I'm
do it,
wondering
right?
if we
So-
should be wordsmithing everything, but I
Well,
think you've
mean,
gotten
would
far
you
in this,
just
so.
Throw it out there and council can do with it as they choose, right?
Yeah, that's what I'm
Um,
thinking anyways.
Yeah.
Well, also noting that the survey's open for another 2 weeks
Exactly.
essentially, so there's also great things that could come in.
So I'm sorry, you specifically want to say, do you want to say reliable public facilities and services or just focus on an extensive park system and numerous recreational opportunities? Or
I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit lost. I'm sorry. Can you read what you have again? Sorry,
Sure.
sorry.
So I have the city of Arroyo Grande is a welcoming and vibrant community that takes pride in its charming character while celebrating its citizens and valuing its visitors. The city is designed to be walkable and bike-friendly, reducing the need for driving and promoting a healthier lifestyle. Arroyo Grande features a vibrant historic village and lively and accessible East Grand Avenue. The city's dedication to strategic growth ensures that housing supply complements market demands while embracing people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds.
I like it.
But
Nice
I don't
work.
have the parks in there, so if you want the parks, I would have to figure out where to put that.
We could just put an addition of call out Parks and
Just
Recreation.
a little asterisk somewhere in there, put in Parks and Rec.
You,
Okay.
you did include the tourists now, though, right?
I did.
Yeah, I think
And
that
valuing
that
its
first line was
visitors.
actually like chef's kiss.
Yeah.
Nice work.
Okay. I'm actually going to do that. I'm
Lo-
just gonna put a little asterisk, if they want to include parks specifically.
Because they're gonna do,
They're gonna wordsmith it
Yeah.
further.
right.
And that way it'll allow
Yeah,
us to
that's
move
good.
on to the next topic.
Oh, I'm
if-
happy to stay on this
No,
as long as we want to,
okay.
but
I think that's pretty good.
I think, yeah, I think you did really good.
Okay, so then, well, just putting together your words.
Good
So I can email this at the end to staff if that makes it easier. Okay. That's all
Perfect.
I
Does
have
that
to say
work
about
for staff? Oh,
Sorry. Yes, that works for us. And also we have video of this meeting, so we can review that if we need to.
thank you. Okay. I am not sure how long this next part will take with us. Would anyone mind if we took like just a 5-minute
Yeah, that'd be
break?
great. I second that.
Okay, I'm gonna have a little 5-minute break if that's okay. Thank you.
All right, we can go ahead and get started now, Chair.
Okay. All right, I am going to call this meeting back to order. Thank you for letting us have this break. I needed it myself, so. We will be moving on now to the guiding principles. So I feel like we should just be having the same kind of discussion. If that's,
that's good.
should we just go one by one?
Sure.
Okay. Principle number one was oh, do we still have Michael on? Or did we lose him?
No, we do. We'll switch it over to that slide.
There you go.
Thank you. Is there one with the text?
With the two guiding
There you go.
principles.
Thank
yeah.
you so much. Appreciate that.
You all can read that.
I've got it on my screen too. All right, anyone feel free to jump in at any time. I'll turn off my mic at this.
I'll just start out, I guess. My initial reaction was I liked, this is regarding guiding principle number one, and the preservation of community pride and identity is how it's written out. I like number one, option number one, which actually turned out on the survey to be the second. I think the survey respondents liked option two better, which is fine. I thought they were both fine. And what I liked in particular, I think, was balancing the historic resources of landmarks and the unique history and character of Arroyo Grande, because we all know that. But also promote community events, education, and engagement, which is key to foster a strong sense of pride. I think Arroyo Grande's pride is something that we should stand on. I think all of us are. Anyways, I like that one. I'll just leave it at that.
I agree. That was kind of the one I was going to. I think option two, while I was going back and forth, but I think it leaned too hard into our history. And while I appreciate and want to celebrate our history, I do think that we're limiting ourselves by that being the entire part of what we're putting out there as community pride. We need to be also looking towards the future.
Absolutely, I agree.
I agree. I much preferred option number one. I actually did have a stronger feeling about this one, as opposed to some of the other options. Because I feel like when you talk about community pride, while it's important to focus on remember our history and celebrate it, identity is the second word there that's really important. Identity is what the makeup is of our community today, tomorrow. What is it looking like? And you can't address that if your guiding principle is mainly focused on historic value.
I actually prefer number one and had a strong feeling about it as well. So
Leave it as is.
I think the only thing with number one that I did have some thoughts on was the last line, actually, that encourage quality local, no problem with that part. Encourage quality local businesses, restaurants, and cultural events, absolutely. That balance the city's small town feel with the need. I felt like it was kind of saying that the small town feel is at odds with inclusivity, equity, and growth. Yeah. Yeah.
That's the
I
balancing
didn't,
factor, not
I
being.
just didn't see how that equated. So that would be the only thing I would say
So what if we
revising.
just
Just how about
just take out inclusivity and
And
equity,
leave it
leave
growth.
growth?
Or we could say sustainable equity and growth.
I just don't know. I think the word that I had a problem with was balance.
Yeah, it's like you don't need to sacrifice one or the other.
No, they can
That
go
maybe
hand in
that
hand.
consider.
what?
That
Why don't?
consider
Yeah, why
the
don't?
city's
or
small
in-
town feel?
Or how about
Incorporate.
incorporate?
Sure.
That's what I was thinking.
Sure.
Yeah.
Incorporate that and that. It's
you
not
have
an
to-
either or, it's a both
Exactly.
and.
Are you
Exactly.
capturing that over there, or do we need to?
Do you want us to write it out for you?
Okay. Are you guys tracking out there what we're talking about? Yeah. Okay, sorry.
I like that.
So if it,
So you
just
leave
to
it
read
as
it
is,
out,
yeah.
like encourage quality local businesses, restaurants, and cultural events that incorporate the city's small town feel and a need for, is that right? Or no, and
No,
a
you can
need
incorporate it
for-
with,
Incorporate with.
yeah.
Okay.
Just, I think, I don't see why not.
Yeah, I feel like that reads a little cleaner to me.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, I
Good.
guess we could move on to guiding principle number 2.
Oh,
Don't say that yet.
It's like saying it's a slow day in the ER, Bruce. Don't say it.
Bad words. Okay. Recreation and community spaces. Thank you for switching the slide. I don't want to jump in.
I'll
but
go first
go
since I
ahead.
went last on the last one, because I actually did really prefer number 1, where parks, maybe I'm on some parks kick tonight, I don't know, but like.
It's okay.
Invest in parks, spaces and rec facilities to me, like, and I know folks have talked about the need to finance that and I understand that, but we're talking about, this is what we want to see. I want to see, every time I look at the city budget and look at the budget for like parks and community and rec, which are 3 of the things that a lot of people value. I feel strongly about number 1.
I agree. The only thing that I had written in there that I'd like to see is to provide inclusive spaces for all ages and abilities.
Yeah,
Just
that's
to,
awesome.
yeah, kind of expand that out just a little bit.
That's a great addition, Jamie. I like that.
Are we just going down the line?
Yeah, go for it.
Sorry. I also like that one, and the survey, 73% of the respondents liked it. So I like it and I like what you added, Jamie. So I'm good with option 1.
Yes.
That wasn't
agree.
slow enough.
I,
Commissioner
I
Stack.
love option 1. I actually felt like it actually addressed where, I'm going to say it, where I am in life, right? I have kids and I want my kids to come back. I think this particular guiding principle option includes everybody. It addresses the people like Ethan in the room that are like, hey, I'm still young. I love our history, but also want things to do. So I love it. I think adding abilities is perfect.
I love that it does
Simple.
call out reduce car reliance too,
Sure.
because I think that was coming into play with a lot of things.
Yes.
Okay, moving on to principle number 3. Thank you.
I can say something on this one. I actually like both of them to some degree. I like in option 1, the wording is important, fostering a welcoming community. That I think that speaks to us actively engaging as citizens, and I really appreciated that clause. The only thing that I would say that I would like to take from option 2, if anything, is equal opportunities to thrive. I think that that's really broad reaching, what that might mean to each person, whether that's financially, in education, or just having medical facilities and services available. I think we all want to thrive, and I think that that's an important part to include, but I like option 1.
I agree with that. I also liked option 1, but what if we just did promote diversity, equity, inclusivity, and encourage a community where everyone's voices are considered and valued and every resident has equal opportunities to thrive? Just to tuck that on the end.
Yeah, I like that as well. That was one of the things that I had highlighted that I wanted to maintain. Flying through it, we didn't even need the break. Well, I did.
No, the break helped us. That's what facilitates.
Okay. Are we going, are you, okay.
Are you following us? Are you tracking?
Go faster.
Okay, guiding principle number 4, infrastructure and smart growth.
Oh, my turn.
Yes.
Yeah, so I chose option number one of the two options. And what did let's see, I don't think I had any specific issues about changing anything. I did like the smart growth aspect and minimizing our environmental impacts. I think that's always the struggle when we're looking at growth is it's not always a battle between growth and the environment. We can grow smartly and sustainably. And, I think we all are aware of, and the general public reminded us, we got to grow. We either grow or we die. And so we have to look for ways to grow. And so infrastructure and smart growth, I really like it as a principle. And I think that does a pretty good job of capturing most all of it. Let me go off mic and read option 2 and see if I want to steal any of their ideas.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree. I felt that these two were pretty similar actually too. I would have loved if we could have placed supporting the development of diverse housing a little higher in it. I almost wanted to lead with that sentence just because I feel like the importance there is, but I also didn't want to rewrite the whole thing as I was looking at this. But I also think that this guiding principle is the perfect place to also putting something in there, especially when you're talking about sustainable infrastructure development and minimizing environmental impacts to planning for the extremes of climate change. I think having something in there about planning for what our community is going to be facing over the next 20 years in terms of weather extremes. I mean, look at what's going to be happening starting tomorrow. We're going to have a high, heat in this area for the next week at least. I think it might need to be part of our plan in general.
Just looking forward a little bit, if we do opt for number one, which I don't really have a strong preference, but this is starting with protect scenic assets. And then if you look at environmental sustainability, we've got protect scenic. I just don't think we need to reiterate that in two different areas. So if we do option one, which I'm fine with, and I'm fine with changing the order of the sentences if we feel like housing should be more important, I'm fine with that. I just think we should probably pick option 2 on the last one because we've already talked about that. That's just my position.
Good planning, Commissioner Roof.
Pick option 2 on the environmental sustainability.
Yeah.
I just
because
don't
it
think we need to
we don't need to
repeat
say
that.
protect scenic assets twice.
So if we choose
Yeah, that makes sense.
option 1 now, we don't need to repeat that later, is what you're saying.
Yeah, that was my point.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good with option 1. I think it kind of gets a little bit into the nitty gritty of itemizing out space preserves, recreational trails, hillsides, and waterways. I don't know that it needed to get quite that granular. But I think we could just put the preservation of natural resources and landscape. I mean, I'm not opposed to adding a line item about planning for future
Extreme
weather. So maybe council can just take that into consideration.
I think too, just as I'm like rereading it and looking at this overall thing, this is our guiding principle. This is infrastructure and smart growth. Okay. Do we want our number one thing to be protecting assets, preserves, trails, hills? Like, I feel like that's
what I'm saying.
more
Yeah, that's more sustainability.
sustainability. That is
Agreed.
my personal
Agreed.
thought. I'm okay with either way, but
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm looking at infrastructure and then my first thing is, oh, well, there's a waterway there, so X that project. You know what I mean?
I think that's why I preferred option 2
Yeah.
for this particular guiding principle.
I
What if
But
you struck that whole first sentence altogether? Because we're gonna take it up later in the other
I'd be good with that.
asset, in environmental.
I mean, I think
sustainability.
that second sentence is pretty comprehensive.
I agree.
Protect sustainable infrastructure and great practice to minimize environmental impacts. Yeah, I'm good with that.
Let's make it shorter and sweet.
and in some ways, I don't mean to discount the climate concerns. That also says minimizing environmental impacts in some ways, but I'm not opposed to.
Yeah, I'm
surfacing it and
thinking.
bringing it to city council's attention and saying,
Well, what I'm thinking, why it brings it into place is that we're gonna have we're gonna have to have some sort of action plans when it comes to something like this week's events. If people don't have air conditioning here,
Yeah.
they're gonna need a safe place to go if it reaches 100 degrees.
Yeah.
We don't have a pool here.
Yeah.
We have, people might die
That's
in
important.
supreme heat, so,
So then-
and we just need to be planning, or
Yeah.
another flood might happen
Yeah.
where we need to have that taken into account in our planning,
Yeah, agreed.
because it's, or a drought even.
I think that's
Okay,
why, that's
great.
why option two, I in part liked that it was, it incorporated community facilities to support growth while enhancing quality of life for the residents. So when you talk about things like a community pool or a cooling center
Right.
or warming center in the extreme cold, I mean,
Right.
those are things that bring value to community members at all levels that might not
Absolutely.
have
And
that at
ages
home.
as well,
Yeah.
because that does tend to affect
Yeah.
people,
The elderly and the,
yeah, and the young.
I think, I was just gonna say we could, just throwing this out there, we could say, if we were doing that statement from option two, implement strategies to balance economic growth opportunities with the preservation of natural resources and the mitigation of climate events. I mean, if we
Of
wanted to,
extreme weather
or
events.
extreme weather event.
Yeah.
But I'm just throwing that out there as an option if we want to include that.
I like it. It's all encompassing. I was gonna bring up specifically water, and we're talking infrastructure. and
That's
again,
part of infrastructure.
for sure.
Yeah.
And we're not really addressing other than saying natural resources. So, I mean, I guess that is what water is, a
Yep.
natural resource. So I think
It's
that's in.
probably the only one the city can control too.
Whatever, we won't get into that.
Because I'm looking at that first statement, we've got like economic growth, we've got preservation of natural resources. We also have extreme weather as a weight on that scale. But I don't know, I'm okay with, I don't have a strong feeling either way of how we want to word it.
We're very helpful on this one.
Okay, so are we landing on option two more so then?
It feels like we are. It feels like we're landing on option two with adding a clause of and mitigation of extreme weather events. That's where I
Yeah.
kind of landed
That is
with,
true.
with
We
our,
kinda flip-flop from one to two, which is fine because it's still moving us in the right direction that we're talking about.
Yeah, I think these two are very similar.
Yeah.
In terms of,
I would be fine with, well, do we want to say, I will say this at the end, it says different income levels and family structures. I actually did prefer living situations.
I forgot I was not on.
On that one, what was the community survey data? Were people preferring option two?
They were 49 to 42.
Oh, it wasn't a huge,
pretty
oh,
close.
okay.
Especially that neck massager.
If there's just real quick, make a suggestion. you know,
Absolutely.
Take it or leave it, but if, yeah, if you have something about, planning for the extremes of climate change, it might make more sense after the second sentence, rather than the first, because it ties into infrastructure investment. But just a suggestion.
Yeah, I think you're right, Brian, just because like what we will need to plan for is going to be infrastructure related.
So how would you, I get that. Where would you, how would you prioritize?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Second sentence of what?
prioritize infrastructure investment in roads, public transportation and community facilities to support community growth. And then could you do to support community growth and mitigate extreme weather events
And
while
accommodate
enhancing life?
Climactic conditions. Oh, there's two-
We're terrible at this microphone thing. I mean, could we asterisk this one too of for the city council of you know, we like this particular direction, if something like this could be added to it.
Really close, I think.
I feel like if we have option two, we ask city council to uh, consider adding in a clause somewhere wherever it's appropriate for mitigation of extreme events and take out family structure and instead put living situation. I think we're all on the same page.
I like that.
I love it.
Aye.
You didn't talk long enough.
The camera didn't come, that's all I care about.
All right, guiding principle number 5, economic development and local business.
Your turn.
Yes. What were my thoughts on this? It looks like I had strong thoughts on I wanted option 2.
I also put that as my option.
I
And I
am
think
not going to
that's
read
what-
my notes.
I think that's what people preferred too from the
They did.
survey.
I don't know why. I opted for option 1, and I didn't have any good reason for that. I just liked it better.
I think for me, it was calling out specifically revitalizing the East Grand Avenue corridor. I mean, I live over there, so that's probably part of it. But I also drive through it, you know, multiple times a day or walk through it and see all the potential that it has. And to call that out as a guiding principle was really important to me personally, just because I think that's where we could grow and develop as a city in many, many, many ways.
I also liked it calling out the multifamily and the missing middle housing types. I thought that was
Absolutely.
a really good part of that. Oh, I'm sorry.
I agree. I like option 2 as a general rule more for those specific reasons, East Grand Avenue corridor, specifically calling out the missing middle housing types. We, as planning commission, we are constantly looking at RENA numbers every single time a new project or comes forth. So it's nice to see it there. The only thing I did like about option 1, and I'm okay with not including it, but I did like it, was the economic opportunities aligning with the job and housing market. I thought that was a very succinct way of saying, hey, these are the type of people that live here right now, making this amount of money. So aligning the housing opportunity to match that. I liked that, but again, I don't think it's excluded in
Right.
option 2. So that's fine.
It says it almost a little more forcefully by focusing on multifamily.
Yeah.
And at least giving a specific of the type of
Sure.
housing that could be accessible there. But yeah, I totally see what you're saying on that. It's a little more subtle. So I'm guessing that we're all good with option 2,
Just-
right?
One thing I wanted to bring up was, we heard public comment about addressing tourism.
That's
This
right.
might be a good opportunity
Thank
to
you.
incorporate that.
Yeah,
We should probably add a sentence. I thank you for reminding us of that.
Thank you.
And I think Mr. Martin brought up a good point. I mean, a lot of our success as a cities is getting visitors to come through and spend their money and enjoy their day in AG. So I do think this is probably the right arena to put some tourism clause or sentence in there. So thank you. Thanks, Andrew.
I almost feel like it would actually be a natural place to put it in that last sentence, where we're enhancing and attracting diverse commercial and housing options to ensure financial security for the city and provide residents with access to Broadway. We could say residents and tourists. I mean, that would be the shortest way of saying it.
yeah, I think that works for me. Just silently. Just kidding.
Another thought is if we're talking about a vibrant hub of activity, diverse housing opportunities, we're also saying retail centers, actually adding hotels. I mean, some sort of I'm missing the word, hospitality segment might be nice, might be something to consider.
Hospitality as a word might be something to try to fit in there in some way.
Maybe I totally agree. Maybe that's like this is a guiding principle. And then as we're getting into that more, the detail of how we're going to accomplish that, I think looking at hospitality options, maybe that could be something that's built into
One of the goals.
one of the goals. Yeah.
Does that sound like?
Andrew, you tracking?
I gotcha. Yeah, great.
I did have one question. Do people, and I don't know, but do people have a preference of saying like visitors or tourists? Like, does it matter to say? I think it was said somewhere else in here, there was like visitors, and I'm like, I don't know what it is, but sometimes, I don't know. I'd like,
I
Tourist has a
prefer
negative
visitors
connotation.
because I have family that visits all the time and I
They're
don't
not
consider
like
them
tourists.
tourists. I consider them extension of my home, you know, so I think visitors is a nice way to put it.
Yeah.
is that okay? Okay.
Okay, I think we're done with that one, right?
So,
All right, guiding principle number 6, environmental sustainability.
might change.
Commissioner Roof, you want to take
Is
this
is
down?
it my lead? Well, people prefer number 1. I actually prefer number 2. But this is one I didn't have a really strong opinion, so I kind of defer to what you all think. I don't have a strong preference one way or the other.
I have both of them highlighted as fine. So I clearly did not have a strong preference either.
Um, the equity to ensure that meeting today's needs does not compromise the ability of the community to meet future needs. Because really, you know, so much of the general plan is a guidance document for the future, not for where we are currently, but obviously taking us from where we are to include the future. So I kind of like number 1 myself, but I'm open to either.
I'm open to 1. I guess the one part I didn't like about number 1 was this urban sprawl. I just don't like, could it just be protect scenic landscapes and natural resources to preserve the city's natural beauty? Like, why do we need to like be
Absolutely.
negative? It just seems like a negative thing to like, ugh, I don't know.
And it's subjective. What does that actually mean to anyone?
I'm gonna say I actually preferred option 2 in this scenario. Because we're talking about sustainability and it's one of those areas that I feel requires strong language. And I feel like just with these 2 options, option 2 is just much more clear for me, what the goal was, you know, as a guiding principle, like sustainable practices in all sectors. Like that's super clear. I'm not opposed to that clause of meeting today's needs, not compromising the ability of the community to meet future needs. I think that is part of what our job here is to do planning.
Yeah.
So I like that. I also really dislike the urban sprawl. I think that reading that, I just automatically didn't want option.
And I think I did also like calling out specifically energy efficiency, waste reduction, renewable energy use. I thought those were really, I mean, I guess you could consider them, they're part of resource conservation, but I did really like them actually being called out, that one.
I agree.
I like it. The only thing that I will point out, and it's just based on racking my brain about one of the comments that we received in our memo today was about there's no mention of our agricultural heritage. And in past times, the general plan update and a lot of our policies and things were an homage to our agricultural heritage. I'm not saying that we need to put that in this particular sector, and maybe the city council will find a way to weave it in somewhere else, but that option 1 does have the agricultural heritage, but I don't think it's necessarily the right place under environmental sustainability. So I concur with
agree.
you guys saying that option 2 is actually a better statement and it gets rid of the urban sprawl. But I do like that last part of option 1 that talks about today's needs does not compromise the ability. So if we could just add that on to option
Or
2.
we we could basically replace that last ensuring a sustainable future through municipal leadership and policy commitments to that last part of the
Oh, that's a good idea.
second sentence of the first one.
Yeah,
I think that works, but
Yeah, I think
yeah, I think that's good. So we're gonna take the second sentence from option one and replace it in where the second sentence is in option two.
Yep.
Follow?
you got it.
Just making sure. we're
wait,
all
but
speaking
then,
the same
but then
language.
we lose the agricultural heritage.
I know, but I think.
You're okay with
I
that?
think it's
No,
a-
no, I'm just
Yeah, no,
making
no, I
sure.
agree, but I did want to bring that up because it is something that was called out specifically in the public comment.
Yeah.
About, hey, we're doing great planning, but we can't also forget it's still, if you look around, we got a lot of agriculture here.
I agree, but I also don't think it might necessarily fit with
I
environmental
think that falls maybe
sustainability.
under more of the preservation of community pride and identity.
I agree.
I mean,
Yeah, agree.
if we identify as an agricultural
Agreed.
community, then that's definitely something worth considering, but maybe in that area instead.
Yeah. We're going against the public on that one.
Well, that's okay. They can volunteer next year.
What was the public date on number 6?
55 to 38,
Oh.
option one. There's only 5% of the city.
And also,
That is true.
let's be clear, it's 5% of the city. And then later on, we see the demographic
breakdown.
makeup of who's responding and
Yeah.
it makes sense.
Sure.
It makes sense.
Absolutely.
So, I think on this particular panel, we have a fairly.
We have a different
pretty-
demographic
we have a-
than,
Well, and we have a range,
Yeah.
actually. So I think,
Yeah, that's fair.
That sounds good.
Real quick, clarification on that. Is it your recommendation to incorporate the term agricultural heritage into guiding principle 1?
if council feels it's appropriate, but yes.
Yeah, but I would say that's probably the right place if it's. to be
I
included.
think it would have to be worded well. I'm not sure if I personally would recommend the addition of it without seeing how they would want to add
Yeah.
it. Cause I do think it's a great part of our history. Do I necessarily think it's gonna be completely our future? I don't know.
Yeah, I agree.
So, and part of,
And I
that.
think that's why, in my mind, recognizing the unique, and this is in quotes, recognizing the unique history and character of Aurora Grande.
Yeah.
In my mind.
That's what it
included
says.
that.
Yeah, me
So-
too.
So I didn't need it to be called out, but if it's going to be, then I think there would be the more appropriate place.
Double asterisk, please, on that. Agricultural history considerations.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I had to get on that camera.
Yeah, this is what happens when we're here for 3 hours. Okay, so I think you all have what you need, correct? Do we need any formal motions from us at this point, or what do you need?
No, I think just the comments that we've gathered is sufficient.
Okay.
It's not a formal public hearing or entitlement,
Perfect.
so no motion necessary.
Perfect. Well,
When,
then-
when is council going to hear this? It's in August, you said?
August 13th. Yes, thank you for asking.
Perfect. Okay, well, I'm
I
gonna,
kind of want to go and see what they do with what.
I may be there as well.
Yeah, your public comment is welcome as
Yeah.
always,
pub-
Ed.
We're the public.
I think just Michael has a couple more comments to make and before we wrap
I'm
up.
sorry, Michael, thank you.
No, thank you. This was a great discussion. We have a lot of notes to go through. I have and we have a lot to put together still to submit to council for their consideration. So I think there's just a couple of points that I wanted to emphasize tonight, and I think they've already been touched on. And one is we're still collecting community feedback. That's really important, but I want to get that out there that this is not one and done. We're going to take all of the community feedback received thus far, your thorough thoughts and comments and feedback this evening, and then any remaining comments afterwards. What we'll do with that, as Andrew noted, we'll take that to the council. They'll consider it, and then from there, they will make a formal recommend or a formal action to adopt the vision and guiding principles. After we have that vision and guiding principles, we can move into, I would say, like what is really going to feel like the planning process. And that's the alternatives phase. And that's where we get to take out maps and markers and start looking at what is the built environment going to look like. And that is really going to be influenced by the vision statement and the guiding principles that we discussed this evening and will ultimately be adopted. I did want to note that just within this evening, within this 3 hours, we've received 15 more surveys and we've received more email signups. So your plea to the public to get out and spread the word is working, and I think that's just a great point to make. We'll try our best to get the word out, but it's really going to take kind of this grassroots community involvement in order to really saturate and get the word out as much as possible. But again,
Can I ask a question that goes along with that? And
Yeah.
maybe I'm completely just, I don't know, off base. Is there any way to tap into mailing lists that we already have as a city to not necessarily add them without permission? Obviously, we wouldn't do that, but like I get an email every other month with my water bill. Can we, you know what I mean? Like, can we utilize any of the communications that we already have going out as a city to direct people this way?
Potentially. It's been something that we've talked about internally and with our consultant. Just how can we increase participation with the community? So recently we've been talking to some of our village businesses that have offered to have the flyers and have cards to distribute, and tapping into some of these email lists for utilities or perhaps some of our rec leagues is a way we can reach a wider variety and wider demographic of our community.
Yeah, I think that would be something to really consider and look at. And I'm so sorry for interrupting you on that, Michael, but that thought came to me.
no, that's a great point. That's a great point. And that was really it. I just was going to follow up with this saying thank you very much for the thorough discussion this evening. This is a very exciting project for us as a firm. And for me personally, I went to Cal Poly. I lived in San Luis Obispo for about 8 years while I was going to school. So the Central Coast is an area that's near and dear to my heart. So very excited to be on this project and to really kind of embody and make a plan that's representative of your community. So thank you for allowing me with that.
Thank you so much.
Of course.
Okay. With that, I think I can move on to the next item on our agenda because we're not quite done yet. Notice of administrative items since May 7th. Does anyone have any questions or comments on that?
I had a question. I Googled my good friend 216 Cobble Creek Way, and there's lots of Cobble Creek Ways. There's one in Templeton. Nothing came up in the city of Rio Grande on Google Maps. So can I ask where Cobble Creek Way is?
Sure. Cobble Creek Way is a brand new street. It's a private street, and it is located off of Corbett Canyon Road, near Highway 227.
Thank you. Is there any, I think I should act for public comment on this item. So is there any public comment on this item? Nothing in the room. Anyone online?
If anybody on Zoom would like to make a comment regarding agenda item number 10, please raise your hand now. Chair, we have no raised hands.
Okay. So I think we can move on to commission communications. Does anyone have anything they want to say?
There's a second item on.
Oh, I think I was doing it as a whole, but we can go back to it if you want to.
Bruce wants to talk about pickleball. So
I
think a
don't,
lot
I
of
don't
people
really,
wanna talk about
I
pickleball.
saw that, and I just didn't know that was all one fell swoop. I'm fine with the pickleball court. Thank you.
All getting a little punchy tonight, huh?
Yeah.
Commission communications, anything?
Yeah, happy 4th of July this week. I hope you all have good plans and get to enjoy the warm weather. I wanted to ask, speaking of pickleball, we had quite a few public comments about the general plan and drawings about pickleball. People
That's why I
love
made the
them some
joke.
pickleball. And I was just brainstorming, like, where would we put more courts if we were to, as a city, put more courts? And this applies to other recreational facilities and stuff as well. So on a serious note, I don't know what this space is zoned for, and maybe staff can help me understand. On West Branch, just to the south of like the regional center and the library. There's that big flat parcel. And I noticed Fire was using it the other day for some training purposes, and randomly there will be cars parked there. What is that property? Who does it belong to? Is it part of the city or is it privately owned? I just don't know.
That is city property. And it's zoned for public facilities. So,
So we could have pickleball courts there.
potentially,
No,
Yeah.
I mean, I just, we all have visions of what of what the city is gonna look like in the future. And as a parent of young kids right now, I'm like, oh, it would be great to have more facilities for recreation that can be rented or used just publicly. And I was wondering if that could be one of them. Are there any plans in the future or slated down the line that people are thinking about?
not that I'm aware of, but of course, as we go through the general plan process, we'll really start looking at land uses and, identify, potential growth opportunities for all land uses, including recreation.
Thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you.
On that same note, can I ask what the vacant lot is next to the Women's Center? That's also a big open space. And at one time, it was tagged as a future recreational facility potential many, many, many years ago. So you know which open space I'm talking about? What is the zoning for that and who owns it?
That's also zoned public facility and it's county land. So SLO County owns that.
Interesting. Any other commission communications? Okay. Staff communications?
I was just gonna say, 4th of July is coming up. City Hall will be closed for the holiday, and that's it.
Great, thank you.
While we're on that though, can we, for the general public, what is our firework policy? Only on the 4th of July can you blow them off? I'm not saying you can blow them off. Safe and sane only, correct?
That's
Right?
correct, and I can't remember the hours. Thank you. 9 AM to 9 PM.
Great. Yeah, it's important that everyone does their best to adhere to that. It's really unnerving. I think how we got to a 1-day limit is because it's really unnerving to a lot of people and pets. So do your best, people, to be good Americans. Thank you.
Thank you for that. You should hear my neighborhood right now. Anyway, all right, I think that is it. So without further ado, I'll adjourn at 8:53. Thank you all.
Thank you, general public.
I love adjourning with, let's do our best to be good Americans. Meeting and.
It's perfect right before 4th of July.
That's kind of how we started,
Mhm.
right?
Oh, I'm proud of us. We can fall through those.
Way to go.
exciting-
Way to go, Madam Chair. Way to go. You just take some booting. Way to go, Commissioner, Vice Chair. Ruth.
We're like,
Still,